This is Goku Sun DBZ. And this is, of course, Top 12 Sunday. I meant to do this morning, but it's now evening. It's about a little past 5:30, so sorry about that, being late, working on this and uploading it. This Sunday is a specialist instead of being a favorite or a neutral. This is definitely neutral. This is based on strictly sales statistics. And this is the top 12 best-selling game consoles. Now, this is going to be based on sales statistics. Now, this will also include, by the way, handhelds along with the actual game consoles as well. As long as it's a game device, it qualifies. And I had to narrow it, obviously, to the absolute top best in sales. Now, today I will give honorable mentions before the top 12, so you know, and I'll go in exact order in sales, lowest to highest. First on honorable mentions, the PS4, PlayStation 4, which is, at least as of when I did this research, which is about 2-3 weeks old, so it may be different now given this is new. But when I checked it last, it had sold 23.75 million consoles, which is pretty good given the console's only been out for 2 years. So, sales-wise, that's pretty good overall. 23, I believe it may be closer to 24 million by now. But anyways, that's the first honorable mentions, and it's the only one of the newer consoles that made the list so far in sales. Next up is the original Xbox, which has sold 24.65 million consoles. Now, yeah, not the best selling, but I mean, given it was the first Xbox and it was Microsoft's foot in the door into the gaming console war market, it isn't really that bad. Selling over 24 million consoles is a good start. And it still sold better. It sold about 2 million more consoles than the GameCube did, by the way. GameCube just didn't make even the honorable mentions. Now, of consoles for me personally, of course, probably my between third and second favorite game console of all time has only sold about 10 million consoles, which is depressing, that being the Sega Dreamcast. It sold like 1 million less than even the Sega Saturn. So it's depressing. It did not do well at all. Next up, honorable mention, selling 27.64 million units. Was the original first real big console. And that was the Atari 2600 model. It sold, 27.64 million consoles. So yeah, it sold a little over 27.5 million consoles, which is pretty good, given this was 1976. And it was the first real launch console on the market. It's what paved the way for everything else. Thanks to games like Pong, Dig Dug, Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, Pitfall, and a lot of other classics. And it really was groundbreaking, and overall, over 27 million units is not bad in sales. Next honorable mention, which I think should have been the top, but since I included handhelds, it didn't make the top 12 cut because of handhelds being included. And next up, selling 29.54 million, so just over 29.5 million. The Sega Genesis, which in my personal view is one of the of regular consoles. Now for me, mine is handhelds. Sega Genesis is probably currently my 5th favorite console of all time. Yeah, I'd probably have to put Sega Genesis personally for me like 5th best of all time in my personal view. And it was really the first console I ever personally owned. I had it before I had Super Nintendo. And I'm sorry for sound in the background, somebody's moving in across from me. So, sorry if you hear anything. But, yeah. And next up, the last of the honorable mentions, selling 32.93 million, just short of 33 million units, was the N64, Nintendo 64. And close to 33 million units is nothing to be ashamed of, though compared to its obvious, a lot better than what the Sega Saturn did, about a tenth of that. I mean, not tenth, but a third. And compared to the some that's higher on the actual list. You'll find out. But yeah, it's the last honorable mention. The Nintendo 64, which had, of course, amazing games like Pokemon Stadium, 007 GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, Star Fox 64, just a lot of great platformers and stuff like Banjo-Kazooie and Mario 64. Now for number 12 on the top 12 best-selling game consoles of all time. Selling a estimated 49.10 million units. The SNES, the Super Nintendo. That's right, the Super Nintendo sold almost 20 million more units than the Sega Genesis, though Sega Genesis made up like 51% of the U.S. gaming market. It did better in North America than Super Nintendo did, but Super Nintendo obviously did overwhelmingly better in Japan and did a little bit better in Europe. Obviously, with 20 million more units sold. But yeah, coming in at number 12 is a ridiculous 49 million units. That's pretty good for 12th place. Which, of course, they had classics like Super Mario World, Mario All-Star Collection, Super Punch-Out, Super Metroid. Everything was super, obviously. Coming at number 11 is the first handheld on this list. And it is the newest handheld from Nintendo. It is the Nintendo 3DS. It comes in at number 11 with an estimated 53.20 million units sold. So it's not bad with over 53 million handhelds sold for the 3DS, and given that's still a newer device, so it's been out now for what, 3-4 years? So it's been out for a while now, about half of its lifespan now. And it's got a pretty good game library now. And it's very competitive, though personally for me, I didn't care as much for the 3DS. I thought it's kind of overrated, personally, which is why I don't have one anymore. But, sadly, Nintendo holds a lot of spots in sales. They were once upon a time really good at marketing. And some stuff, they're still good at marketing, obviously. Coming in at number 10 is the original NES. The original Nintendo comes in 10th place with an estimated 61.91 million, so just short of 62 million units. Now that's insane given it came out in 1985. That's ridiculous. Well, 84 in Japan, 85 in America. But you get the point, the gist of it. But yeah, so without a doubt, it's ridiculous and insane. But yeah, it's kind of ridiculous and sorry, as you can hear people in the background. Coming in, excuse me, I'm going to try and increase sound on some stuff. Anyway, sorry for that. But coming in at number 9 is the PlayStation Portable, or the PSP rather, which has sold an estimated 80.82 million units. So just shy of 81 million units. Which, that's insane. I bet a lot of people didn't realize that the handheld PlayStation Portable, PSP, was that good a seller with over 50 million, with over 80 million units sold. And personally, It's my favorite handheld of all time. But keep in mind that's just my personal opinion. Coming in at number 8 is the Nintendo Game Boy Advance, which also includes Game Boy Advance SP with Game Boy Advance, of course. It sold an estimated 81.51 million, so it sold just under a million more than the PlayStation Portable at number 9. Which had some really good games and some remakes. It was basically a handheld Super Nintendo, if you will, because it was a 16-bit handheld. Coming in at number 7 is the Xbox 360, with an estimated 84.90 million units sold. So, just short of 85 million. Now, even though it's in some place, 85 million units or close to is definitely nothing to be ashamed of. That's pretty successful. And it remains Microsoft's most successful, obviously. Given the Xbox One currently stands at only about just short of 15 million. So it's still got a long ways to go, obviously. But, yep, the 360 really dominated. And for a time there, it actually beat, for a while there, the PS3. PS3 eventually ended up surpassing it in sales just a little bit. But the 360 had some really great games and stuff. It was the first console to get like a console port of, obviously, and of course, obviously, Halo 3, Halo 4 and stuff really helped the sales, obviously, as along with other games like Fable 2, Fable 3, and some other really good. That's the thing, Microsoft and some of the Microsoft ports of PS3 games actually played better on the 360, surprisingly. There are a few games here and there I may have played better, but for the most part, it did better. Coming at number 6, the PlayStation 3, or rather the PS3. Selling an estimated 85.77 million, so just short of 86 million, so it's right now just about a 1 million lead over the 360. So I'm sure PlayStation 3 is happy to be right now the 6th best selling game device or console of all time. And yep, that's definitely nothing to be ashamed of. That's quite impressive sales. And personally for me, originally, like a lot of people at first, I was more into the 360. I still have, but I love it. But eventually, over time, the PS3 won me over. The PS1 and 2 had me immediately won over. PS3 took a while to get me to come over and end up getting into, which now I love it. It's in my top 10 of all time, of course, gaming devices, for me personally. Coming in at number 5 is a game console I've never owned, and I have no intention of ever owning. I have no interest in it. It's more for casual gamers. That is the Nintendo Wii, which has sold an estimated 101.17 million. That's quite a jump from 85 to 101. That's quite a nice little leap from 6th to 5th. And yeah, I find it ridiculous that the Wii has sold 101 million. It's the 5th best-selling game device or console of all time. I don't understand the phenomenon of the Wii. I'll never understand the phenomenon. However, the Wii U is a complete flop. It's barely sold 10 million units. But it's kind of a joke as a console. It's really just an extension of or glorified controller, basically. Coming in at number 4 is the original PlayStation, also known as the PSX from my day, and also for more nowadays known as the PS1. And it comes in 4th place with an estimated 104.25 million units. That's insane, pure and simple. That's just nuts. That's just completely crazy. But it's an incredible console, and it's my number 1, personally, favorite game console of all time. Pure and simple. There's nothing that competes with it at number 1. Number 2 and 3 go back and forth between the Dreamcast for me personally and probably the Super Nintendo. But yeah, the original PlayStation, oh my goodness, I love that console so much. Final Fantasy Tactics, Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 8, Final Fantasy 9, Chrono Cross, and having also ports of 6, 5, 4, Chrono Trigger. It's just incredible, all the JRPGs and RPGs, and great fun games like Tekken 3 and others. Coming in number 3. Yeah, I'm trying to just be a little faster today, not trying to be as long as I normally am. Coming in number 3 is the Game Boy, and yes, this includes Game Boy Color, since it's still called Game Boy. And it's just a colored version, so they're considered together. Game Boy sold an estimated 118.69 million. So yeah, over 118 million. That's completely cuckoo. But hey, it was the first handheld I ever had was a Game Boy Color. And what was the game that probably sold most of us on playing Game Boy? It was a little game called Pokemon Red and Blue. Red and Blue. Sorry. But yellow is my favorite personally. Tell me what your favorite Pokemon version was. Whether it was Silver, Crystal, Gold, or of course Red, Blue, Yellow. Tell me what your favorite was. And of course, obviously, your favorite handheld and regular console of all time. Coming in at number 2, another Nintendo DS, with an estimated 154.88 million units sold. You want to say, cuckoo, that's completely insane. It jumps, number 3 to number 2 jumps from 118 to 154. That's a really large leap in sales. Yeah, Nintendo DS is the best-selling Nintendo device of all time, and it's the best-selling handheld of all time. And of course, it's because thanks to the DS Lite, which is backwards compatible with the regular Game Boy Advance games as well. Not with regular Game Boy, sadly, but with Game Boy Advance. So that gives you an insane library right there. Coming in number 1, obviously from Sony, the number 1 best-selling game console gaming device of all time, with an estimated 157.68 million units sold. With a 12-year lifespan, the PS2, or rather the PlayStation 2, comes in number 1 in sales of all time of any gaming device. Any surprise? I mean, look at the giant juggernaut hits on it. It had games like Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy XII. It had games like big stuff like Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty, Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater. It had Kingdom Hearts 1, Kingdom Hearts 2, and a redone version. Of course, they also had Resident Evil Code Veronica X. It had Resident Evil 4. I mean, you're talking about a slew of great games. Twisted Metal Black, Zone of the Enders, Ico, Shadows of the Colossus, Silent Hill 2, 3, and 4. There's too many games to name, really, on the PS2. And, of course, for sports fans, Gran Turismo, and for our people, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, Grand Theft Auto 3, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. An insane library of games. They've estimated, the library over, like 5,000 games, I think, worldwide. Estimated in its library. That's just a ridiculous amount of games. But it's an insane amount of consoles, with 157 million sold. But anyways, this is my top 12 best-selling game devices or consoles of all time. As always, this is Goku Sun DBZ. And I'll see you next time for, of course, my comic book reviews. And my first review I will be doing of comics will be the last issue of Star Wars Shattered Empire, issue 4 of 4. So stay tuned for that. Of course, you can follow me at twitter.com/GokuSunDBZ and also GokuSunDBZ, obviously, on Google+. And I'll see you next time here in YouTube Land. Peace out. And you'll probably see another game top 12 list coming next week. And that will be the top 12 game franchises of all time. So stay tuned for that.